So back to the agricultural roots of this part of our calendar. The great majority of us in this day and age are not farmers. We might have a garden, we might go berry picking, we might be connected to the ground and the soil in a lot of different ways, but we don't have that same kind of feeling, we don't have that same intentionality as our ancestors did when they were brought into the promised land and they started cultivating their land and they started growing their own crops. And this is connected to a mitzvah called bikurim. Right? In Passover, we say this part of the story after the exodus from Egypt, all the way up until Shavuot and the gift of Matan Torah and the receiving of Torah. The idea is that eventually our ancestors made it into the promised land, and what they were commanded to do was to stop relying on God to give them food, right, the manna from heaven, and instead to start cultivating, to start becoming farmers, to start growing fruit, vegetables, and making the land their own. So what they did is they took their crops and they brought it to the Kohanim, the priests, and they said, "This is my bounty, I'm giving it as an offering, and I am filled with gratitude." So our challenge as modern Jews is not to try to make this about simply agriculture or food. To us, there's a lot of really great ways of doing that. If you would like to dive into that part of this mitzvah, I'm happy to talk about that as well. But really to think about what that food represents symbolically to us today, namely blessings, the different blessings in our lives, the different things that we're thankful for. So here's what I would suggest. When you count the Omer, don't just count and say this is a day, here's the next day, here's the next day. Think about, before you actually say the bracha, before you actually say the blessing, think about the day that was and the day that is, the day that will be. Think about the potential that lays in front of you. And before you say the blessing, think about at least one thing that you're incredibly grateful for. This is a mindfulness practice that can make this entire period between Pesach and Shavuot really incredibly meaningful, and it especially makes it when we receive Matan Torah, the gift of Torah on the day of Shavuot. It's the accumulation of all these brachot, of these blessings that brought us there. It feels incredible. So if you'd like an example of how to do this, I'll invite you to head over to this third video where we'll add a little meditative exercise, a little way of mindfulness practice to really channel the counting of the Omer before we say the bracha. Either way, make it yours. It doesn't have to be 10 minutes long or 2 minutes long. It can be a few seconds, but just take a time to step out from your day and think about the brachot, think about the blessings that are in your life. And when you count the Omer, don't just count the day, make the day count. Thanks for watching.